Hi everyone, Linda from Let's Talk Prepping. And I wasn't going to bring you a video this weekend, but there is so much going on, I felt I had to. Because if one of these things that I'm going to be discussing happens, and I hadn't brought this to you, you then wouldn't be able to prepare. So if just knowing that what's happening allows you to get ready to prepare just that little bit sooner, then I'm happy to bring this video to you. So let's look and see what's going on in the world this weekend. And it's a lot of stuff, believe me. We're over here at RT.com, just RT.com. Zelensky pledges never to talk to Putin. He's not going to talk with Moscow until Putin is replaced as president. And if you remember the video I brought you yesterday, the experts said that if they replace Putin, it'll be replaced with a strong man who is even worse. Says Zelensky has repeatedly rejected overtures of peace from Moscow, turning down Putin's offer on Friday to resume peace negotiations. So this is just one more thing. And then the same RT.com. Beijing orders state banks to get ready for massive dollar dumps. And this is from Reuters. The Chinese authorities are reportedly striving to store up the yuan. I never say that right. So what happens if this massive dollar dump is just the start of the dollar not remaining the reserve currency? That will be terrible for the U.S. and for us and for pension funds and for everything. So let's hope it's just a short-term thing. And this is again RT.com. Nord Stream explosions are a tremendous opportunity for the U.S. So that's interesting. We can now sell our natural gas overseas to Europe. Now, if you remember, I think it was in yesterday's video or the video the other day, it said that the natural gas is going to be going up in price in the U.S. and it might be a little bit scarce. Well, if that's the case and we start sending our liquefied natural gas to Europe, you know it will be scarcer here and the prices will definitely go up. And again, RT.com, this winter will be hard, but the next one will be even worse. In the EU, and the Energy Commissioner Cardi Simpson warns of a difficult time ahead. This person says, ministers were concerned, as I am, that this will not be an easy winter for us, and next winter will be even more difficult, said Simpson during a press conference. And what they've done to ease some of the skyrocketing gas prices is place a cap on energy company revenues and distributing excess profits back to the consumer. And it prescribes mandatory energy savings, requiring EU members to cut energy demand during peak hours by 5% and suggesting a 10% reduction in overall electricity use. So as you know, they're having all kinds of problems now, or they will be in the winter. And again, RT.com, the West and Russia already fighting World War III, former Trump advisor says. Americans have failed to recognize the scope of the Ukraine conflict. Says the West has been fighting World War III against Russia for a long time without being aware of it. Former White House advisor Fiona Hill told the New Yorker magazine on Thursday. Moscow, however, is aware, with President Putin accusing the West of waging hybrid war on Russia. And she served in Donald Trump's National Security Council. And Russia already considers itself at war with NATO in Ukraine, and Putin has vowed to use all available means to defend the territory. And we know that, including the 4 former Ukrainian regions set to join the Russian Federation in the coming days. And this is from MSN.com. And it was in the Washington Post. Russia's annexation puts world 2 or 3 steps away from nuclear war. And this is what's disturbing to me. Every time you turn around, they say, we're closer to nuclear war. And most people just don't even think it's going to be bad. I mean, you've never hear anybody on mainstream media saying, no, we don't want nuclear war. It's going to be hell on earth if that happens. But we don't hear that. We don't see it. And like the Washington Post here says, we're 2 or 3 steps away. So what are 2 or 3 steps? I'm not sure. And then if we look at this is from the dailymail.com. Actually, it's dailymail.co.uk. dailymail.co.uk. Air Force grounds more than 100 C-130 Hercules cargo planes over defective propeller barrels that could crack. So this is our military, and we're grounding these planes when we really don't have any spare ones. And if any kind of a war breaks out, we're going to need planes to deliver goods to the military. And if you go down a little bit, it gives a list of the aircraft and how many are in serious risk, high risk. So we've got people talking about nuclear war coming, and we're grounding our cargo planes. Not that with the nuclear war, maybe you won't even need them. And here's the zerohedge.com. Globalists are marching us relentlessly towards nuclear Armageddon, warns former senator. And so we have a former senator from Virginia, Colonel Richard Black, and he addressed members of the Congress in an open letter Tuesday about globalists are marching us relentlessly towards this nuclear Armageddon. And you can go through here and see how he says the U.S. could have had peace by pressing Ukraine to implement the 2014 Minsk peace agreements. You can read that. How NATO could have sought peace but chose war instead. He said, billionaire elites who have an interest in the region are making war profits, even if it means gambling the lives of hundreds of millions of people across the globe. Should we annihilate the world's population to intervene in a border war where the U.S. has no vital national interest? He called for an end of this war by making Ukraine a neutral, non-aligned state, just as we did in the Cold War with Austria in 1955. But it appears the former senator's plea to avoid further conflict went unheard after Zelensky declared intent to apply expedited NATO membership. So, that's another article I was going to bring you today. Zelensky wants to become a member of NATO, and he has asked for expedited membership. So if we jump over here to pjmedia.com, and it says, and this is September 30th, Zelensky shocks world, announces Ukraine has applied for accelerated NATO membership. According to a Reuters report, Zelensky said Friday that he signed off on a fast-track membership paperwork for his nation to join the alliance. So we have people saying we're 2 or 3 steps closer to nuclear war. Don't you think once Zelensky joins NATO, and if NATO accepts him, we're even closer to nuclear war than 2 or 3 steps? So we have that. And then we have in Canada, the Western Journal, westernjournal.com, Canadian rebellion spreads like wildfire. 3 provinces openly defying Trudeau's gun surrender order. So Trudeau says they have to surrender their assault-style firearms, which they're calling just about every firearm an assault-style firearm. And it includes 1,500 models, so, and variants. A semi-automatic shotgun is probably in there, I'm just guessing. And they're going to give fair compensation to buy back the guns. But some of these people who shoot skeet and trap and sporting clays, they have like $10,000 shotguns. You think they're going to get $10,000 for a buyback? Of course not. So what's happened now in these provinces, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have been told that they're going to go around and confiscate firearms under the buyback program. And these provinces have said no way, they're not going to allow it to happen. We will not tolerate taking officers off the street in order to confiscate the property of law-abiding firearm owners. And what they say right here is something very important. It just takes a few to stand up to give a backbone to the many to do the same. So we in the U.S. have to start standing up against all these government regulations, what's happening in the schools, and everything else. It's time to do that. And then this is interesting. This is from Reuters. Europe races for mobile network blackouts because they're going to be having trouble with the power and having power cuts and energy rationing in Europe. It's going to affect the mobile phones, cell towers. And somewhere here it said that the cell towers only have about 30 minutes to run. The battery backups that last 30 minutes. So not only are they going to be out of electric and natural gas, they're going to be out of cell phones. Well, one more on Europe. Let's see, from Bloomberg. Gazprom halts gas supplies to Italy in the latest energy battle. So company cites regulatory issues in Austria for gas cutoff. So we have that happening. That's again today's date, October 1st. And as you know, I always like to bring you something a little bit different. Well, those of you who want to eat those plant burgers, look at this. This is from this website here, vaccineimpact.com. Rat feeding study suggests the Impossible Burger may not be safe to eat. And they have a yeast-derived protein, soy, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to pronounce that, legumoglobulin. The burger's key ingredient, developed signs of toxicity. So the rats fed this, got signs of toxicity. And this is their key ingredient. It's a protein, and it's derived from genetically modified yeast. It's already being sold in restaurants and supermarkets, and we know that the Impossible Burger, you can find it just about everywhere now. And they applied for permission to market the burger in the EU and the UK. And the results of the rat feeding study, commissioned by Impossible Foods, suggests that the burger may not be safe to eat. And the FDA initially refused to sign off on the safety of this SLH, which I couldn't pronounce, when first approached by the company. And the rat feeding study results suggest that the agency's concerns were justified. So in 2015, they said safety wasn't proven. But in 2017, Impossible Foods tried again, and they submitted it to the FDA. And usually they have a 90-day feeding study, but what they did is they got permission for a 28-day study. So they went through, and there were all these problems here, and all effects were dismissed, and the FDA capitulates. Impossible Foods' second attempt to obtain GRAS, generally recognized as safe status, succeeded. The FDA issued no questions letter, indicating that it had no further questions. Such letters are not an assertion by the FDA that the food is safe. They state the company asserts that the food is safe. So the FDA isn't saying, hey, it's safe to eat. They're saying the company says it's safe to eat. So the no question letters may protect the FDA from liability if something goes wrong, but it doesn't protect the consumer. And there's one other ingredient in this Impossible Burger that now contains another GMO ingredient, protein from herbicide-tolerant soy. The company introduced soy protein to replace wheat protein in order to improve the texture and to avoid gluten. So this new one, Impossible Burger, can contain residues of the probable carcinogen glyphosate. So there we have it. The FDA doesn't care what you eat. They're probably getting paid off. And we've got possibility of war coming. We've got food that we can't eat that the FDA isn't protecting us from. So look at all these things and see what kind of an impact they might have on your life. Is there really going to be a nuclear war? You don't know, I don't know, but we can connect the dots and see that we're really closer than we've ever been to nuclear Armageddon. So what does that mean? Well, maybe you better read up on what you could do, if there are any safeguards that you can take. If we don't have a nuclear war, are we going to go in and we're going to protect Ukraine if they become a member of NATO? What will that involve? Will that involve boots on the ground and maybe a draft here in the U.S.? I don't know what it would involve. Think, though, what could it involve and how would it affect you, and what can you do now to minimize the effects on you? So leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.